Yes, there actually has been a lot of news. There we go, news of the week. So Atlanta FaZe won Major 3. They won 4-0 and by a map count of 13-6. They basically did not lose a single series, but they lost some maps. Again, round 1 3-2 against Thieves. That looked concerning, but then they beat New York Subliners 3-2. Okay. Then they beat Optic 3-1, then they beat Optic 6-1. Mostly did it through the hard point 6-2, Search Destroy 4-2, and then the Control 2-2. And I think the big story of the event is fundamentally what we said, and we've been saying this since the beginning of the season, and we even further said it last week. Last week we recorded. Sorry, I should clarify that. It's pretty obvious, but just to clarify that, we were like, it's a 4-team league, and sure enough, those 4 teams made Sunday. Right? Those 4 teams, FaZe, New York Subliners, Optic, and Toronto, in some order, made day. They're the only ones to make Sunday, and they were in the top 4. It's basically a 4-team league right now. And I think, and basically, as we'll see in a second here, actually, okay, I'll let you, do you have any other quick notes you want to say on that before we get to some of the other notes, or?
I was going to reiterate what you said. The big talking point going into Major 2 was, will the top 4 all perform well? And the answer was yes. The favorite to win the tournament won outright, even though we somewhat disagreed with FaZe being the favorite. And then Optic, New York, Toronto all came up 2-3-4. They all won their round 1 matches. I know that was a discussion point. We thought one of them might slip up in that first round, but all of them came through, some easier than others. And then, just showing those 5th, 6th, and 7th, 8th teams, it's just going to be a crapshoot. If those top 4 just hold serve all throughout the year, I feel like those 5th through 8th places are just going to cycle for Major 3 and Major 4. Boston might end up in that mix, and LA Thieves might end up in that mix. And I don't know, it's just pick your poison with those teams. So good on those teams for racking up a decent amount of points as they try to, get a spot in champs. But yeah, I'd say for the most part, it was a really chalky bracket, which was expected. So that's about it for me, though. Just it was a good tournament overall. I just think a lack of upsets maybe made it too, I don't know, predictable maybe, but otherwise it was good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And this is now the point that I was going to say before, but I left it for this slide. So obviously a bunch of roster changes. Minnesota, Vivid's out. Not exactly sure who's replacing him yet. Miami Heretics, Real in, Eric Boom out. 04, that is not a typo, the name is 04. They are in, Arcides is out. And then Boston, Beans, and Pentagram in, Asim and Slasher out. And this is, I think, fundamentally the problem with gestures broadly. Because it's a 4-team league. And I think, actually, is it the next? It's a couple slides down. Actually, you know what? I'll tell you what. I will just skip ahead to that slide. We'll come back. But this slide is showing it, right? It's a 4-team league. And all these are pretty comparable. You're basically saying they're functionally equal. Okay, maybe FaZe is a little bit better, maybe 60%, but not a lot better than Subliners. And then Subliners has a 74% win probability over the next best team, which has a 59% over the next best team, and all these are exactly that line. And then Surge is obviously the lowest. The problem is, I fundamentally do not think there is anything that could get any of these teams into that top 4. I think the top 4 is so top-heavy. It is a concentration of the top 12 players. No, not 12. 16 players in the league. It is so highly concentrated up here that these teams know what they're doing, and they have accumulated a concentration of talent that is just far superior to anything any of the other teams could hope to match. This is like that people say, in the NBA you have super teams. And it's okay, but you only basically have 1 or 2 good players. You have a bunch of okay players. But this league is so small and so and because there's no salary cap or basically anything stopping these teams from accumulating these players, you have 4 teams that care and invest in the money because they have the most money coming back, and they have the best teams. And then the other teams, through either a lack of funds or a lack of developmental system, they are just stuck with whatever, right? And I think that's a fundamental problem with this league. You could say, and again, we'll go back to the team changes here. Okay, 04 in, RCDs out. Okay, so this is what I want to see. The only shot you have here is you have to basically just start taking shots on rookies. You have to basically say, okay, I want this rookie, I want this rookie. Okay, Pentagram, we've seen him in the league before. Not bad, not great. Beans, the same thing. Real, I think he started the year for Miami, right? This is the problem. This is just you're moving around pieces of furniture. These teams need massive overhauls if they're going to compete. And after this tournament, I thought about this because this is an important topic of conversation, and I was thinking about this, and I'm like, okay, if you're the GM or owner, more GM because you're making whatever position they have as GM, and you're any of the not top four teams, and literally pick any of them. You could be Minnesota, that's fine, but you could literally any of the teams. What do you do? How do you just say, all right, we can make champs, and then that's it? What do you do? How do you even begin to address the problems here?
Yeah, I think, and we talked about this briefly, even in the first few weeks of the season, it was apparent right away to us that, okay, if you're any of those other teams in the bottom 8, I think you need to reevaluate your goals for this year and build a roster that can compete and make champs, which is very much the opposite, or at least that's my thinking with this, is if you're one of those teams, just build a solid roster, pick up wins here and there. Don't swing for the fence. Just try to hit a single, try to hit a double, qualify for champs, rake in as much prize cash as you can, because you're not going to build a better team than FaZe or Optic or New York. Or maybe you do end up building a better team than one of those, but there's 3 other ones that are going to put you down. So it's, yeah, you really have to just build a solid team, which is not something I've ever said when talking about the CDL. To me, the league has always been like there's always been enough parity within the league where I thought any team making the right roster change could all of a sudden vault themselves up into a contender tier or even the top tier of the league. And this year, that's just not happening. There is such a clear divide that playing for 5th or playing for 6th that's a good idea. Do what you can to beat those bottom teams, get yourself into champs, and see what you can do. I know that's not fun, but honestly, I worry about the teams that are like taking such drastic swings to put themselves in that tier. And here's what could happen is those big swings could lead to singles and doubles, and that's great. I just think a lot of these teams are almost overdoing it with how aggressive they're being, but only time will tell to see if any of these work. The good news for all those teams in the bottom 8 is that the CDL point standings is very close. I don't remember another year where we've gotten to the halfway mark, and pretty much every team is very much alive. Even Boston, they sit in 12th place. If you're a Boston fan, I would be worried because you're in last. But honestly, if these roster moves work out, you very easily could jump to 8th or 7th or however high you could get just through this Major 3. So yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. There's a lot of moves, a lot of map set updating that we'll talk about here in a bit. But yeah, the one team I want to shout out is my Minnesota Rocker, because I don't know if dropping Vivid is smart, right? Like you had a team that through 2 majors is 5th in the standings. You're sitting pretty comfortable. I know the Major 2 qualifiers weren't great, but you've performed well at the majors. Major 1, you closed hot. I think you're in a good spot. Now you take Vivid out for who knows who is replacing him. I don't know. They haven't announced that yet. And I don't know, I just worry that their floor might be lower now that they've done that. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But yeah, we've got a lot of COD to watch yet.
Yeah, it's really hard to sit here and say that, oh, this will, oh, for in RCD's out, Surge is a top team, right? Or, but this is the thing, you can't say that. And the thing is, you make a good point that in the past, teams have been able to make a single change, right? You think back to Cold War, right? Methods out, Insight in, they win the next, Toronto Ultra wins the next major, right? Minnesota, they made a change, brought Standy in. I think they actually won a major. I'm not sure they won the next major, but they won a major after that. New York Subliners with Hydra, they became instantly competitive, right? This is the thing, is that in the past you've been able to make those single changes and you're able to become competitive, but either the challengers network has dried, even the challengers pool has dried up, or that I think the only way you could possibly do it is you'd have to go back to Seattle of 2 years ago, where you have accuracy and you bring in Sib and Pred, and then you have one or two veterans on the team and you have two rookies, and then like you just have to hope that they're good rookies, right? And that's your only shot. And the problem is the fact that, look, like some of this talent, look at this Vivid, Arcides, Asim, Slasher. These are names that when you go back and watch, even tournaments before the CDL era, these were mainstays of those tournaments, and now they're just being dropped as, okay, we don't even want you on our team. Like, it's not even, oh, okay, you can go anchor a team. It's like, you're not part of this at all. And that's crazy because, like, I mean, at one, they're like 25. It's like, you're too old. They're not too old, but it's just like, these players are randomly being dropped, and it's just like, no, we don't even want you to play on the team. We'll pay you money. Like, Arcides has basically been, he was given a 3-year contract by LAG 2 years ago, dropped from LAG, now with Seattle, now dropped again. Like, this is a guy who won multiple CDL championships with FaZe, right? Like, it's so weird how the old guard is just being shoved out. And I'm not sure if it's necessarily productivity. I think there is some level of productivity to it. There's probably also roster cost as well. It's a very weird situation where teams are like, this isn't good enough. This isn't cutting it, and we need better players. And I don't know. I worry about a league where if you're an owner of a team and you're like, okay, we're losing $1 million a year just to come in sixth, right? We're losing a couple $1 million a year on salary and everything, and we're coming in sixth place. Why? What's the point if you're going massively in debt, you're nowhere near profitability, and yet you're coming in sixth place, right? Like, why? What's the point even? Why are you even a team, right? And I worry about a league in which that's the thing. And I mean, we've had some conversations about the longevity of this league. I think those are not going away anytime soon. But yeah, I think there's some interesting things to think about in terms of past this season and how this. Because the thing is, like, when you look at other professional leagues, like you're wearing a Green Bay Packers jersey right there, Green Bay Packers shirt. The NFL, perfect parity, right? Worst team gets the first draft pick. Now, of course, it can be some. There's some things that can mess around with that. For example, teams openly tanking, but whatever. That's superfluous to the fact that if a team is that bad, they're that bad, right? They're not gonna. They deserve to have a higher pick, right? I think it's very difficult but there's no mechanism like that in the CDL, right? It's all rosters. And the thing is, a lot of the people in the top four, they've been signed, and some of them have multiple year deals, right? And if you're a top 4 team, why would you let your team go? You're a top 4 team already, right? So it's difficult for the competitiveness of this league.